If you would please state and spell your full name for the record.
My full name is Mark James Tiedt. First name is M-A-R-K. Middle is James, J-A-M-E-S, and Tiedt is spelled T-I-E-D-T.
Thank you. Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you start off by telling us how you're employed?
I'm a deputy sheriff with the Iowa County Sheriff's Office.
And how many years of service do you have with the Iowa County Sheriff's Office?
I've been employed there since June 1st of 2006.
Are you a graduate, or did you graduate from one of the Iowa law enforcement academies?
I graduated from the 205th Basic Academy in July of 2005 at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy.
And so does that make you a certified peace officer in the state of Iowa?
It does.
And you said your current position is deputy sheriff?
Correct.
Have you held any other positions through the Iowa County Sheriff's Office?
I was a canine handler for several years, but still a deputy sheriff during that time as well.
How many years were you a canine handler?
Approximately 7.
And did you have any law enforcement experience prior to becoming employed with the Iowa County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, ma'am. In 2005, I was employed with the Marion Police Department, and then I left there in October of 2005 approximately. I went to work for a family business, and then in 2006 I decided to get back into law enforcement. I worked briefly for the small town of Tripola Police Department, and then I got hired by the Iowa County Sheriff's Office.
And deputy sheriff, was that the position or the title that you held back in February of 2024?
Yes.
Can you tell us briefly, as a deputy sheriff, what your primary job duties or responsibilities are?
Mine differ a little than a normal deputy. I'm a primarily patrol, but I also assist with investigations when our primary investigator is overwhelmed or his caseload is too much or he's not available. But primarily it's patrol. You drive around, deter crime, traffic enforcement, answer calls for service, that type of thing.
Counsel, would you turn your mic on?
It is.
Oh, somehow it's not coming through well.
Will you
I'll turn it up.
Thank you. How's that, Judge? Better?
Better, thank you.
Yes. Deputy, on February 18th, 2024, did you become involved in a homicide investigation of Melody Hoffman?
I did.
And can you tell us how it is you became involved in that?
I was working just a normal patrol shift that day, and it was probably about 10:12, I think I have in my notes, in the morning. Iowa County Dispatch received a 911 call of a female that had been found at the Amana Lily Lake, and the caller believed that she may be deceased.
When you work patrol, are you patrolling the entirety of Iowa County?
Yes, all approximately 600 square miles.
Can you recall approximately where you were when this call came out from dispatch that this body had been found?
Actually, I was at the office. I was in Marengo at the time.
And so once that call came out, did you head straight towards the Lily Pond or Lily Lake area?
I did.
And just to be clear, Lily Pond and Lily Lake, are those used interchangeably?
Yes, it's very common to call it either one.
Okay. The information that comes in through dispatch, does dispatch then relay or tell you that information as you're responding to a scene?
Yes.
So you get that information, you're at the sheriff's office, and then you head to Lily Pond?
Correct.
Do you recall approximately what time you arrived on scene?
I have it in my notes if I could refer to my report.
If referring to your report would help refresh your recollection, I'd ask you to look at that.
Okay.
Let me know when you found that answer.
I arrived on scene at approximately 10:23 a.m.
And can you recall what the weather was like that morning?
For February, it was warm, but I remember it was windy. And warm, I would say, for February, it'd be in the 40s, approximately, degrees.
By the time you received this call, do you have any recollection of there being fog?
I don't.
Any memory of rain or any other types of precipitation that would have occurred late that night or early that morning?
Nothing is sticking out to me, no.
When you made your approach to the Lily Lake area or the Lily Pond area, what road did you come in off of?
I would have been on 220th Trail.
And I want to show you what's been previously admitted as State's Exhibit 2 with the court's permission to republish that.
You may do so.
One more. Thank you. Do you recognize this aerial photo of the Lily Pond area?
I do.
When you arrived at the Lily Pond area, which way did you come in from?
I would have came from the west traveling east. So this is 220th Trail here, and this is the direction I would have traveled, eastbound on 220th Trail to the Lily Lake, to this area right here.
And is that the area of the pond at the kind of center top of that pond area where the pavilion is located?
Yes, so this area right here, this would be the parking lot to the pond, or to the Lily Lake, and then the pavilion would be right in here.
Thank you, Your Honor. When you arrived at that area, did you make contact with anybody?
I made contact, yes, with 3 individuals, and then also there was 2 QRS or first responders on scene already.
Okay, so the 3 individuals that you made contact with, do you recall their names?
One was Amy Robasi, and then I have Ursula Williams, and then her husband, Scott Williams, maybe. Yes, Scott Williams.
Was Ursula and Scott the older couple?
Yes.
That was there with Amy Rabas?
Correct.
Okay. You also mentioned that there were QRS members that were present. What's QRS?
In Iowa County, QRS is called Quick Responders. It's an acronym. And QRS is basically your first responders. So every town has volunteer service first responders. And this was called out as a medical call originally. So they dispatched an ambulance, but then they also dispatched first responders because the ambulance cannot get there as quick as first responders can.
Okay. And so these first responders have some degree of medical training or paramedics or something?
Yes.
Okay. So when you got there, QRS was already present?
2 members of the QRS was, yes.
And did they check Melody Hoffman for signs of life?
The one female member named Madison Frame did inform me she checked Miss Hoffman for any heartbeat or anything like that, and she said she did not detect anything.
Is that typical for the medical personnel to arrive and make contact with the injured or deceased individual before law enforcement gets involved?
It is very common.
So after it was relayed to you or conveyed to you that Melody did not have any signs of life, what did you do next?
I went over and observed Miss Hoffman lying in the grass, and to me, obviously, she was clearly deceased as well.
When you say you observed her, can you describe for us what your initial observations of Melody Hoffman were?
So she was lying face down on the ground. Her head was to the east, her feet were to the west. Her arms were down to her sides, kind of spread out a little bit. I would say her hands were 2 or 3 feet from her body. She had all kinds of lacerations across her back and then some stab wounds on her back as well. Her underwear was pulled down over her buttocks, and then her bra had been pulled up towards her shoulders. She was not wearing any other clothing besides that.
Deputy, can you recall or would you describe this crime scene as particularly bloody?
No, there was very little blood, actually. Miss Hoffman had a little bit of blood, but there was no blood pooled anywhere on the ground. To me, it was almost as if that's not where the scene occurred, the actual homicide occurred, because there was no blood anywhere, really.
Did you touch the body?
I did not. I did touch her body after the special agent with the DCI arrived and after the medical examiner. But prior to that, no, I did not touch her body.
So well into the investigation?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. At the time that you are there and making your initial contact, had this body in any way been identified?
No, it did not.
And so you noted that the medical examiner and you said an investigator, did they touch or manipulate the decedent in any way?
After they arrived on scene, yes, they did. We did move Ms. Hoffman to where we could take photos of her and examine her. But until then, no, Ms. Hoffman had not been moved.
In the course of events or the chain of events that occurs, photographs overall are taken, is that correct?
Correct.
Was the area and the condition of Melody Hoffman's body photographed before she was moved or manipulated in any way?
Yes, I did photograph the scene along with the body.
Can you recall approximately what time Melody Hoffman was confirmed deceased?
It was at 10:37 a.m.
Was the scene taped off?
Yes, it was.
Explain to us what it means to tape off a crime scene.
This area was rather large due to the open area, but basically we put crime scene tape, secured the parking lot. We put crime scene tape along the bike trail, and then to the east of the pavilion, there's actually a small bridge. We blocked the scene at that bridge with crime scene tape. And then we just basically kept everybody out of the scene that had no business to be in the scene. If someone had pulled into the parking lot, we politely asked them to leave the parking lot. We basically just kept everybody away from the scene.
How is it determined how big of an area to tape off when you're taping off a scene?
At this scene, we just started taping, actually. We just tried to get as much area as we possibly could taped off.
And though it may seem obvious, can you explain to us the purpose of taping off a scene area?
Just to keep the public and keep anybody outside that doesn't belong in the scene, to keep them outside of the scene and to preserve any evidence that is inside the scene.
So it limits contaminating the area?
Yes.
Okay. Once that area was taped off, did yourself and other law enforcement officers begin processing that scene?
We did.
And can you tell us what's the first step of processing a crime scene?
Photographing it, and which is what we did immediately.
When a crime scene is photographed, are there just numerous photos that are taken?
Yes.
And during that photographing process, was Melody rolled over so that her body could be photographed from all angles?
Ms. Hoffman wasn't rolled over until the medical examiner arrived, at which point we did roll her over. But yes, it was photographed after we rolled her over.
Once Melody was rolled over, did you make any additional observations that were relevant or pertinent to your investigation?
We observed more injuries on Ms. Hoffman.
What were the extent of those injuries?
You could see that where she appeared to almost have been strangled, like ligature marks on her neck and markings on her wrist and ankles as well.
Do you recall seeing any injuries to her face?
I'm just trying to think. If there was, they're not sticking out to me.
Okay. In the position rolled over, face up, Do you recall seeing any blood?
If there was, it was very little blood, nothing that would stick out to me as being a large amount of blood.
Were there any evidentiary items that were located near or around Ms. Hoffman's body?
So we found a necklace that was laying near her, and we also found a piece of pink cloth that was laying near her. And I believe we found a cigarette and a blister pack for a pill. I don't believe we gathered those as evidence. I don't know if those had anything to do with the case or not. But those are the four things that stick out to me.
The necklace that was found, was she wearing that necklace?
No, it was laying on the grass next to her.
Do you specifically recall any pieces of jewelry being worn by Melody?
Miss Hoffman did have a class ring on her hand.
Deputy, I would like to show you what had previously been marked as State's Exhibits 6A through 6U. Are they on your screen, Judge?
Yeah,
Okay.
just on your screen.
Do you recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
And are they photos that were taken at the scene at Lily Pond?
Those are all photos that I would have taken.
Okay. Your Honor, the state offers 6A through 6U.
Any objection to Exhibits 6A through 6U? No objection. Exhibits 6A through 6U are admitted.
And may I have permission to publish photographs, Your Honor?
You may do so. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready when you are. Deputy, starting first with State's Exhibit 6A, can you tell us what we're seeing in this photograph?
So this area here would be the parking lot to the Lily Lake. This is a bicycle trail that goes all the way around the Lily Lake. This would be the pavilion, the picnic area for the Lily Lake. This is the shoreline, and right there is going to be Miss Hoffman's body.
And in State's Exhibit 6B, can you tell us what we're seeing in this photo and from what vantage point?
So here, I'm actually going to be to the east of Miss Hoffman, looking back to the west. This is going to be Middle Lamanna, and this is going to be the Lily Lake. The pavilion would actually be over here on your right. It's out of the photo, and then there again is Miss Hoffman's body.
And 6C?
I'm actually going to be looking south across the Lily Lake, or southwest across the Lily Lake. This is going to be Whirlpool Manufacturing back here, the Lily Lake, and then this is going to be the shoreline. So I would actually be standing about where the pavilion, or right in front of the pavilion is where I would be standing.
When photographs are taken at a crime scene, is there an approach to taking those photographs where you start from a distance and work your way in?
Yes, so this one I did. I started from a distance. I took photographs of various angles, and then I slowly worked my way into the body.
What's the purpose of that?
Just to try to catch any evidence that you may see, further away or further closer, just more to look for different types of evidence.
Does it also assist when you go back and look at photos to give you perspective on where things are?
Absolutely.
Okay. 6D, what are we seeing here?
You're going to see Miss Hoffman's body. I would actually going to be to the northeast of her, looking at her body, and then this is going to be the shoreline to the Lily Lake right here, and then obviously the Lily Lake.
And 6E?
We're moving closer into Miss Hoffman's body. These items here, these are actually monitor pads that the ambulance put on her. But then we're just moving closer. So I'm standing to the east of her, taking a photo of her facing more to the west.
Can you tell us what we're seeing in 6F?
Yes, so this is just an overall view of Ms. Hoffman's back and the slashing marks. She does appear to have some stab wounds, these 2 stab wounds here. And then there's this piece of pink cloth down here that we did gather as evidence as well.
The condition of Ms. Hoffman's undergarments, is this the condition that she was found in when you arrived?
Yes.
And the position of her body, was this the position that she was in when you arrived?
Yes.
And again, these blue and white items, one on the right shoulder, on the right rib area, and up on this shoulder, those were placed there by medical personnel?
Correct.
(6G).
Once again, it's just another overall view of Ms. Hoffman, just from a different side.
From this angle or from this vantage point, were you able to observe?
Yes. Here would be another one. So you have there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then those would be what I would consider a stab wound.
6H.
Just a close-up imagery of her back.
And though it may seem apparent, these straight linear marks on the body, those defects, were those wounds or injuries as well?
Yes. To me, it would almost be like a slashing or a chopping or cutting type injury.
And earlier when you referred to slashing injuries, were these the injuries that you were referencing?
Yes.
(6I).
At this point, we're just taking photos of the stab wound here and using a tape measure for reference to show the size of the actual wound.
And so that tape measure gives you perspective on the size of that stab wound there?
Correct. And the same one here as well, just using the tape measure to show perspective of the size of the injury.
In 6J, because we're zoomed in, it's difficult to tell which part of the body this is. The black item here, is this the bra or underwear?
That would be her bra.
And 6K, what are we looking at here?
This is going to be her right hand. And the reason I took this is that the cuts on her fingers to me would almost be like a defensive injury, where she was holding her hands up or something. But the primary focus of this photo would be the cuts on her hand right here.
6L, what are we seeing in this photograph?
That is just going to
that was on Melody Hoffman when you came into contact with her. Is that ring present in 6L?
I believe that is the ring, yes.
6M, can you tell us what we're focused on in this picture?
It's kind of hard to see, but there's actually the injuries on her ankles here. And then,
will you dim the lights for me, please? Does that help?
That does help. Thank
Okay.
you. The injuries to her ankle. And also you can almost see as if these lines here, and that's what we are focusing on.
What did those lines that you're referencing indicate to you?
To me, I mean, as if maybe her ankles had been bound at some point.
(6N), can you tell us what we're seeing in this photograph?
That is just a homemade tattoo of a heart. I believe it's a heart. We used that, we photographed that because at this point in the investigation, we still had not identified her. So we were taking photos of any type of tattoos or anything that could help identify Ms. Hoffman.
Were there any injuries that you were able to also observe in the photo of 6N?
Yes, there's going to be these injuries right here around her hands. That to me appeared to almost as if her arms had been bound, her hands had been bound as well.
The dark of that tattoo that you referenced, did that appear to be an injury, or was that just...
Yes, ma'am, that's also an injury.
What are we seeing in this photograph?
Here again, the injuries to the hand, and then to the arm and wrist, and then also the tattoo of the heart. But these are the injuries right here.
So this is the same arm, wrist area that we saw in the previous photo, just from a different angle of the arm?
Yes.
6P, tell us what we're seeing in this photograph.
That is going to be the class ring that ultimately will be used to identify who the female was.
And can you tell us how that ring was used to identify her?
Yes, so once we took the ring off, on the inside of the ring was the name engraved of Melody Hoffman, and we performed a record search through the driver's license system, and we were able to obtain a photograph of Melody Hoffman, and that is how we identified her.
(6Q), what are we seeing here?
This is going to be Miss Hoffman after we had rolled her over. This is just an image of her face.
Is there anything, well, what we see in the nose area, would that be blood?
That is a little bit of blood there, yes.
You also testified for us, Deputy, that when you rolled her over, you were able to observe additional ligature marks. Can you tell us where you saw those?
So they're actually going to be right in this area here. Here's a small one of them. I believe there should be more photos where I actually move her head a little bit and you can see those markings better.
And is that what we're seeing in 6R?
Yes, it's marks right here.
6S, tell us what we're seeing in this photograph.
That is going to be this small piece of pink clothing that I pointed out earlier. This is going to be her right breast, and then this is going to be her right arm.
In this photograph, is she still in a face-down photo?
Yes.
And so when you see this and photograph it, is it also something that's collected from the scene?
Yes, that piece of pink clothing was collected.
(6T) is a little difficult to see, but can you tell us what we're focusing on here?
Yep, right here, it's very hard to see. But this is actually the necklace that we recovered at the scene. Here's one piece, one end, and then there's the other, and it goes in this shape right here. But that is going to be the necklace that we collected at the scene.
6U, same necklace.
That is the same necklace. At this point, we had picked it up. I laid it on the paper bag and photographed it just so that way it could be seen better rather than in the grass.
While at the scene, did investigators add anything to her body?
No. We did put paper bags on her hands, but that was the only thing we did to the body.
Tell us why paper bags are put on hands at crime scenes.
To preserve any type of evidence that may be under her fingernails, any DNA evidence, also preserves any markings that would be on her hands or anything like that.
And so the paper bags that are put on the hands, do those paper bags remain there until the time of autopsy?
Yes.
Can you tell us, once the scene was, the processing of the scene was completed, what happened to Melody Hoffman at that point?
She was transported to the state crime lab in Ankeny for an autopsy.
And the state crime lab in Ankeny, is that typically where autopsies are performed?
For our agency, yes.
Once the scene was cleared, Ms. Hoffman removed, did you perform any canvassing in the area?
I did. I went to spoke to a couple of the individuals that actually live across the Lily Lake in the middle Amana side.
And when we use the term canvassing, what's that mean?
I and just asked them if they noticed anything throughout the night or early in the morning that would be suspicious or that might raise alarm to them.
Through your canvassing efforts, was there anything that you gained that was important to your investigation?
No, nothing super important. The only one was I had spoken to an individual named Dan and Angela Ray, and they informed me that they are...
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
The information that you got from the Rays, did you do anything with that information?
No.
Okay. So after having received it, did you make a determination that this wasn't essential to your investigation?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any additional questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Cross?